just to get this thing started?
Let's go. No, I'm eager. I mean, it's so fun to be back. All the progress we made since last season. I mean, think about it. New coach, new GM, a lot of new front office people, new coaches, new players, new quarterback. I know you all toured the facility, so just a lot going on and a lot of really positive things, but ready to get going.
Obviously, not a lot of things done to the stadium here, but there was news in the past week. The city contracted with a consultant to work on maybe getting you guys back to RFK. Can you give us an update on where things are stadium-wise?
Yeah, we're working like super hard, right? I mean, it's taking up a lot of my own mind space to find our next home. But and as you know, we have conversations going with multiple jurisdictions, and not a lot really to say about it per se, other than, you know, as you peel the onion, things get more and more detailed, more and more advanced. I mean, you're aware of some of the things going on in D.C. and the congressional support. We're hoping to get the Senate to buy into that also, probably after the election. So we'll have to, you know, obviously I'll leave it to you all or other pundits to predict political action, but a lot of good stuff going on and very positive, but not a lot to share.
Why will that be after the election for you? Why is your focus after the election?
Yeah, I just don't think so. If you look at what's happening in the Senate realistically, and now I'm really getting out of it, there's not a lot happening, right? Everyone's focused on the election. So this is the kind of thing that would have to be part of a series of bills that would, you know, go through in the lame duck session. So it's not really realistic to think that's going to happen before the election.
If the RFK bill fails, would you commit to another legislative effort to get D.C. on the table, or would you be open to making a decision before that?
Yeah, I think I'm hoping that we can get some action before the change to the next Senate and Congress and administration, because I think that's when, you know, all bets are. I don't know. The answer is it's very hard to predict what that looks like. So ideally, since we have a lot of stuff lined up right now, it would happen in the lame duck session. But again, now you're really predicting the inner workings of Washington.
How firm is that? People throw out the 2030 date for when you want it open. How firm is that in terms of when you know?
Yeah, it's a target. I think it's a realistic target. I mean, I wouldn't say that, again, like there's there's political things that need to occur. There's land zoning, a whole lot of other things. A lot of it is not within our control. So there's no way to predict a specific date, but I think that's a reasonable target.
I'm curious, you know, you've been around Jaden a little bit. I'm curious your thoughts on him and how different the vibe is around the franchise now as opposed to last year.
Yeah, look, I'm super pumped that that Jaden is with us. I'm very excited about the pick. I mean, look, you all watch what I watch, right? I mean, you see, he hasn't been on the field all that much, but you see how we move down the field, different level. Plus, him as a person, as a human being, as a worker, you know, earliest at the training facility, latest to leave, real teammate, real leader, real athleticism, and just a great person to be around. So I think that, you know, I'm very, very optimistic and excited about watching him this season.
With the changes you guys have made this offseason just to this stadium, I mean, what was your first reaction as you kind of walked through and saw all these?
Yeah, I think I'm very pumped to see the new everything, right? The new suites, the new mini marts, you know, the frictionless marts, the easier ingress and egress, all of it. New paint, and you know, the tunnel club, all of it. New food. Although the mac and cheese was a little much for me today, I'm not gonna lie, but on the other hand, I also was wandering around planning next season's capital project. So I think we got more to do, and it really makes me a strange thing, right? Usually it's strange when you're spending lots of money, but I really get excited about fixing the place up for our fans and you know, making it. I mean, as I said when we bought the team, bought the club, you know, you're inviting people into your house. And you don't want to have an old couch, you know, finishes that are crumbling and all that. So I think that I'm looking forward to continuing to make a lot of progress, you know, right now. I mean, obviously, now that the season's starting, it's all going to happen next year, but we're going to get started for next year now.
you've been out at training camp practices. What's just been your impression of the overall tone and sort of the culture that Quinn has started to build over there?
Yeah, people are having fun. People are committed. They're having fun. You've got Dan, obviously is very intense, but he's building a culture of, everyone being on the same page, having the same goals, same objectives, and he gamifies things. And a lot of optimism, a lot of excitement. People, all the vets showed up at the, at an optional veteran mini camp. It doesn't really happen. So, it's a great vibe and a different vibe, and people are just ready to get going.
Josh, you've also made a lot of upgrades back in Ashburn at the practice facility. What do you kind of see with that in terms of building new? Is that still tied to what goes on here with the stadium, or is that a separate one?
Look, we're just starting to do a lot of planning there, but again, I'd say yes and no. I mean, obviously, we're in a lot of choices to be made, and if we end up with, Stadium 1 jurisdiction, there's advantages to disadvantage. We're the DMV, right? It's just 3 jurisdictions, but on the other hand, so it's tied in some sense, but I'm sort of undergoing the same process there, which is like, what can we fix next? And obviously the player lounge and the old, it was great. It was harmonious for me to just watch the high school turf go up from 1980 something and get rolled up into a ball. But there's a lot. I mean, there's an enormous amount to do there. I mean, obviously, we need to do a lot better there. So, we're going to keep working on that as well. But now that the season's on, it's going to get pushed also. But you'll see just continuous improvement at both locations.
And in terms of the football side, obviously, tons of changes with from Adam on
Yep.
down. Sounds Jason Wright's moving on. What other changes do you kind of see coming that you want to get to, and what's sort of your timeline for what they get?
Yeah, look, I think that obviously we're looking for a new president, and that's my most important job as managing partner is finding the coach, finding the GM, finding the president. So the president's super important, and I'm really engaged in it and personally leading it, and going back to talking to search firms and talking to candidates and all that. So, and I'm obviously, I obviously wish Jason did an amazing job for us transitioning. Came in during previous ownership, transitioned the franchise through a very difficult time period, and welcomed us and did and continues to do an amazing job for us. So I wish him well. So that's like the next area of focus.
Good evening, Josh. Can you share a little bit of the decision to remove the Sha Taylor Memorial and commission a new statue to be built in the future?
Yeah, I think that honoring our alumni and obviously Washington football, the glory of Washington football, 3 Super Bowls, we have a lot. But Sha Taylor is particularly important for obvious reasons. And I wanted to make sure that he had a first-class memorial, first-class exhibit, and so we've been working closely with the Taylor family and came to the decision jointly that it was probably time to look for something new, and we'll be considering that over the next season with the family. And so I was, it's part of a bigger picture, right? Which is that in the NFL, I mean, if you're in NFL, the fraternity of NFL players, right? So if I were an NFL player, I would look at, how we have an incredible number of people that were really good, and so we're trying to embrace them all, but Sha Taylor in particular.
And then your history as a lifelong fan of the team before you were an owner of the team, is any part of that inside of you motivating you to kind of do some of these improvements that you're doing?
Massively. Some of my earliest memories were of Washington football and walking into RFK, and I actually heard the stadium moving. I was there. I lived through all that, right? So I was there when we drafted Darryl Green and Art Monk, and Joe Gibbs came in and went 0-6, and Billy Kilmer and Sonny Jurgensen. I was there for all that. So I'm incredibly motivated to bring it back. And I think what I said earlier was that when I've obviously invested in a lot of sports assets, but when I first walked into, Commander Stadium, I definitely was more emotional. And so this is emotional for me. It's not just business. It's about the city, the franchise, the fans, and doing what's right to bring the team back to where it needs to be.
Mr. Harris, as you all are making upgrades to the current stadium, are there any other organizations you're looking at across the sports world as kind of best in class or best practices that you all are leveraging?
Yeah, so every time we go to an NFL stadium or a new NBA stadium or a new, I went to Tottenham Stadium, which is, both, obviously a Premier League club and European football club, but also hosts NFL games. We are looking at everything that's going on there, and so I can assure you that when we build our new home, we will be availing ourselves of all the modern things that are going on. Like, for example, I visited SoFi. I make it my own business to walk around with the ownership group or with the CEO or with the facilities manager and hear everything that's going on, whether it be where the Clippers are playing, which is new, whether it's SoFi, whether it's the new Vegas stadium, even the Premier League club stadiums. And so there's a lot of knowledge out there. This is an area of a lot of technology in terms of premium. It's constantly changing in terms of Wi-Fi electronics and, how to emphasize the game. And so we have a lot of decisions to make. And I can assure you that we're going to be really try to be as thoughtful as we can about it. And, of course, we're going to look at everything that's out there.
With a new coach, new GM, new quarterback this season, going into 2024, What are your expectations and what does a successful season look like? Yeah, so I'm focused on our long-term goals, which is I want to be elite and playing deep into the playoffs or competing for Super Bowls season in and season out. And, I'm focused on building, and I think this will be a better season than last year across the board. I think we're going to be, obviously the identity that Dan and Adam have been talking about, the team is front and center in terms of us being competitive, of being, punishing, of competing at the end. And obviously, the record was dismal last year, and we better do better than that. But really, I think this is going to be a way better season for all of those things and a lot of the intangibles. Jaden continue developing, hopefully, into what we think and all hope that and know that he can be. And so a lot of intangibles, and then you should see improvement across the board on everything. Whether that I've learned a long time ago in sports not to make bold predictions, so I will not. This is sports, and I'll leave that to the bettors in Vegas and other things, people who are better at making predictions than I am. But for sure, we're all going to have a much funner time.
Hey, Josh, with your other teams, you all were able to eventually acquire a difference maker, a significant difference maker. How does that buy a franchise time to kind of fill out the rest of the roster, the rest of the team, even if you struggle in year one or year two?
Yeah, look, I think when you have a difference maker, ultimately you're going to see improvement in the team. And obviously, each sport's different. Certainly, in the other sports, there's only so. If you have a league MVP on your roster, you're going to be pretty good. So I think that in the case of some of the other franchises, we're really now at the point where we're trying to win championships, and it's not our regular season is less important for us. I think here we're a little earlier than that, but I think certainly if Jaden turns into what we all think he can be, that is the key position in the NFL, and obviously he'll move us forward.
And what have you seen him in your interactions with him during OTAs, during camp, and during this spring and summer?
Yeah, he's great. He is down to earth, humble, committed.
very genuine, easy to be around. I mean, I really can't say enough good things about Jaden. And even with, I mean, obviously, and sort of, I think, works well with his teammates, with me, with Dan, and just has an easy way about him, and really communicates with everyone. So I think that he seems unique, and all these difference makers. I mean, and you asked me about others, but it's like they're unique, right? They're ends of one, and I'm hoping that. I mean, Jaden has a lot of potential to be one of those.
You guys have expressed interest in hosting a future NFL draft here in D.C. I'm just wondering what your vision for that would be and what that could do for football and for the team.
Yeah, I think we're going to get that done. I mean, we're talking to the league about it. It's a question of timing, and it's going to be a few years off. They plan it way in advance. And, I mean, listen, think about the idea of having, and I'm not breaking news here, because it's not done yet, but think about a draft on the mall or whatever, and how exciting that would be for the city of Washington, for the NFL. So everyone sees that. And so obviously there's a lot of complexity to it with, the park service, and now I'm lifting the covers a little, but, there's things that need to get done. But I think that I believe that it will happen, and it's a question of when. And so, yeah, it'll be great. I mean, it'd be super fun to do that here, and I think great for the country as well, and great for the NFL.
And then training camp is the other one. Some teams take it on the road, some teams don't. What have your interactions been like with Dan? Has he expressed a preference, and do you have one?
Yeah, look, I think that Dan's preference, I think, is to be away from where the main training, away from the training ground, get away, come together, and so I think, as you're aware, there's some things that we're working on, but I think that you can do that in lots of different ways. You can do it at a permanent home. You can do that on a season-in, season-out basis. And so we have some options, but I think that's his preference. It makes sense to me.
Josh, as an owner, do you operate differently sport to sport? Like an executive obviously would build a roster differently, but depending on the sport, do you find yourself acting that way with hockey, basketball, football?
Yeah, so I'm pretty focused on the Commanders and the NBA, and I have partners that I work with on the other sports. And look, I think the fundamentals are the same, which is you hire the best talent, you hire the best coach, the best GM, and they hire coaches underneath them, and then you hold them accountable. You ask lots of questions. You make sure you're super knowledgeable and they're communicating with you, but then you let them do their jobs, right? And so my approach as an owner is to do it that way. I don't want to be, kind of controlling, roster decisions. I mean, obviously, if I think something, my job is to keep it, on the road, right? Like if I think someone's doing something that really doesn't make sense, I'm not going to do it. But by and large, that's their job. And just because, I'm a great business person. I built, a big company. Doesn't mean that I'm going to be better than Adam Peters at picking a roster, right? So I defer, but hold people accountable for their decisions. And obviously, and so I think that really is the same across sports. I mean, obviously, there's lots of nuances between the different sports. There's different CBAs, different, sports have hard caps, not hard caps. Certainly the number of players in the NBA is much smaller, and there's lots of nuances we go into. But by and large, that sort of approach is what I follow across sports.
And you've made it pretty clear throughout that the name's not a priority right now. Is there any research that you have being done to see if the name is resonating with fans more than it was initially, or is that something that matters to you at all if it is growing in popularity?
It does matter. I just think that, and certainly, like we've been very clear, we can't, for obvious reasons, the old name can't come back. But right now, we're focused on things that unify the team around our football team, right? And unify the city around our football team. And so, the first objective is we got to start winning football games. And we need everyone supporting the team and not things that might, drive people apart. Secondly, obviously, we're trying to find a new home. And again, unifying the city around that is important. And so, and the name is one of those things that like a lot of opinions. But I mean, I can't say I've certainly not forgotten. I mean, like I said, I grew up here. Okay, so I understand it. And we brought back. We're going to start to do things that bring us back to our heritage, honoring our past. The gold. You saw the gold pants. Those are easy things to do. So we are doing research and we're thinking about it. But like right now, we're prioritizing the things that we've talked about, and that's kind of the rationale for it.
Hey, Josh, having grown up here, you talked about going to games and, watching this team your whole life. This fan base, people could say, has maybe kind of been asleep or just not as present the last 20 years. Do you feel a sense where you can feel like that fan base is waking up just with the changes you guys have made and the new leadership and Jaden and everything?
Totally. I mean, first of all, thank you to the fans. I mean, we're, way ahead of, I think we've sold more tickets than than we had all last year today. And I've been out in the community a lot, and I've been speaking to people, and literally people cry when they talk about Washington football and the memories that they had. And so it's still there. It was like a little bit sleeping, a little bit dormant, and there's so many stories that I get told or texted about or any number of ways communicated to where, okay, I just spoke to my neighbor and they just bought season tickets again because they like what you all are doing. And so that's across the DMV. And so our job is to keep delivering for the fan base, keep creating that excitement, keep doing things in a first-class way, keep inviting people in to help us make this happen for the DMV, and obviously supporting the players, supporting the football team. So I do think it's coming back, and I do think that it never went away, but it got lost for a little while.
Josh, we just had the opportunity to take this tour, and much of the renovations are absolutely beautiful, some of them breathtaking. Also, the access for the fans are a lot easier in some spaces as well. You talked earlier about this being like someone coming into your home. What do you hope that fans feel when they walk into Commanders Field?
Yeah, so I just hope they feel comfortable. So what I say to our staff is that, everyone can affect how a fan feels when they come here, right? So if the parking person yells at you, or if your food is cold, or if someone is surly, or the elevator doesn't work, all these things affect fan experience. And so I want people to feel comfortable here, and I think importantly to feel part of a community. We're all part of a community. That we're the community that wants the Commanders to win. Like when the Commanders are successful on the field, like we're the people that are at the stadium and the people that are watching on TV, the DMV at large. We're all coming together, and so that's what sports does. And so all those things are part of it. And I also want I want feedback. Just keep. I know you've been telling us what you want, but keep talking to us, and we're listening. Thanks, everyone.